Good afternoon, everyone. Here we go, moving once again from one unit to the next, this time into Unit 4, where we're going to look at some things that you already touched on in some of your earlier work in the first 3 weeks. And this week we kind of expand on it and make a full topic out of it. And if you notice, that's the way this course works a little bit. We sometimes looks like we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and that's intentional. It's to make sure we've really absorbed and applied stuff that has come previous to the week that we're working on. So the week that we are starting, this first half of Unit 4, really addresses something that many of you referenced in previous work. And that's when we were looking at the value of a team, the value of a franchise. We looked at several things like their performance, where they were, their market size, their revenue sources, how they make their money. And in that context, a lot of you folks did mention things about, how that much they were valued in the community. Well, now we're going to look at, is that really a factor? And this is more now getting just a little bit away from pure finance into economics, the concept of value to a community and in a larger sense. And one thing I think we mentioned back a week or two ago, I know I did into several comments I made to people in there in scoring some of the papers and everything like that. The NFL, which seems to dominate our thinking in the fall, and it is kind of the dominant league, so it makes sense they are the leader in a lot of things. But back to this, for this comment, it's valid, and it actually goes for so many other sports. 32 teams in the NFL, only 4 play in stadiums they own. Okay, the rest play in stadiums owned by someone else. Well, who is that someone? Well, generally it's the community. Generally it's the city, the state, perhaps even a quasi-governmental authority set up just to run the stadium. Okay, because you've noticed recently stadiums cost a lot of money. They used to cost in the millions, then the tens and hundreds of millions. Now a first-class NFL, top-tier league, NBA, Major League Baseball, these stadiums and arenas are in the billions, okay? And literally, even though you see the revenue streams that are coming in to these professional sports, who can afford that? And who's willing to take the burden? And what we're seeing is still, it falls on, and there is a willingness for it to happen to a lot of communities. They want that team. Yet, as we learned earlier, a lot of economists come down on either side of that issue. Is a franchise worth it to a community? And there's going to be several ways you're going to discover to looking at that in the readings and the videos that we have for you this week. But let me give you a couple examples where we might think about it a little differently to give you some perspective, because most of this stuff is focused on the major sports. But for those of us who are local to Connecticut and the region, as many of us are, I'm going to give you 2 examples. One would be the Hartford Yard Goats, right? The Hartford Yard Goats, minor league AA baseball team and everything, is one of the more successful AA teams in the country. And they do not successful on the field, successful as a business. And they consistently win awards for the best customer service, the best experience, the best attendance. They have a ridiculous number of attendance. They'll sell out most of their home dates. I think they have 60 home dates a year. They sell out 59 of them. This is quite a success for you. They've got a nice little stadium in Hartford, but it was created largely out of a municipal effort to start rebuilding a whole area of Hartford, the north end of Hartford, which had been cut off from the rest of the city by the construction of I-84 back in the 1960s. And could this be an engine for economic revitalization in that neighborhood? And I said it to you right to this day, after 5 or 6 years in operation, there's quite a debate that has accomplished or even accomplished the beginning of that objective. So is a place like that different than if you're looking at, saying building a new ballpark in Los Angeles or Chicago or something like that, okay? Different amounts of scale, difference in purpose as to what it accomplishes. Another one I will take locally, very locally for me, is not even involving a stadium, but it certainly involves sport. I live in Bristol, Connecticut. And one of the things that most people know Bristol, Connecticut for is ESPN, right? ESPN is now the city's largest employer. It is now the city's largest taxpayer. In fact, I would have to say, despite all what the politicians of any side and any stripe want to tell you, who really controls the tax rates, the property tax rates in Bristol, Connecticut? Well, it's pretty much the Walt Disney Company. How? Because of the money they spend in the equipment and real estate and property that they own at ESPN, which is taxable by the city of Bristol. Okay, they are the prime source of revenue to the city of Bristol. So here is an example of a sports enterprise being an extreme contributor to the economy of a local region, which was, as many old New England manufacturing cities were, a declining spiral. Okay, and it had become not an urban center; it had become a suburb. It's different now. Okay, so these are the kind of perspectives I'd like you to try to maintain and understand as we go through this. So it's an interesting week. I think we have some real interesting material for you. It will probably open our eyes in many ways when we say, gee, I never thought of it that way before. And if anything, these 2 weeks for me, the big goal is to achieve that for many of us, that I never thought of it that way before. This is what's driving the presence of this team in this area. It can be many factors. And then we're going to build on it in a few different ways. So there is a discussion this week that you'll notice. Don't get too far ahead of yourselves. Some folks like to get into the discussion real early and then disappear. Some wait till the end. Spread your work out across the... We've got quite a few days left to do it. Make sure you're reading along with what others are thinking and question them. And always try, as I've urged you to do before, to keep that direct sporting application in the background, right? It gives the context to the business and economics lessons that we're trying to learn. So, it's I think I challenged one or two of you during one of the grading one of the papers, or maybe a discussion a couple weeks ago, saying, I want you to go through this next week, or this next 2 or 3 units, without mentioning a single player. Hard to do. Okay, hard to do. But the idea is, it's not about the game on the field. It's about the game on the field and the game in the boardroom and the game in the city council chambers and in the TV executive offices. This is what we're looking at. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I'm getting halfway through the assignments on the Green Bay Packers annual report exercise. Very happy with what I've seen so far. That's another one where we tried to do the same thing as G. Never thought of it that way before, and it's looking like we achieved that objective. Any questions about anything? People have not been shy about emailing me with questions. Still the best way to get in touch with me. And good luck with the rest of this week and into next, and look probably for one more video and a couple other additions as things come up in real time in terms of sport business. Okay, thank you again. Bye.